Welcome everybody to the game analysis of game number 11 of the World Chess Championship 2018. Today, the last time in classical chess at least, Magnus Carlsen, the world champion, with the white pieces. And would he finally put some pressure and get that first win? Or would it be yet another draw? We are about to find out. It was 1e4 just like in game 6, and once again we see the Petrov. And this time no knight to d3. Instead Carlsen goes for the main line here. In this position there are two main moves, d4 and the move that Carlsen plays, knight to c3. Knight takes, pawn takes, and now bishop e7, bishop e3. Both sides are developing castle, queen to d2, and knight d7, queenside castle. And in fact this is also the line the players discussed in the very last game before the match in the Sinquefield Cup in August 2018. And there Carlsen got a promising position. I believe he played bishop c4 at this moment, but he played some sideline and put pressure on Caruana, but in the end Caruana escaped. So, well, in fact, if he played this, he played it earlier, but he played some bishop c4 move. Not in this position since it's black to go, but it was a sideline. Today we see the main line, and here Caruana played a different move than he played in the past. Only 2 months ago against Arnian he played c6, and probably this was the move Carlsen expected, but Caruana always the first to surprise. Knight f6 is the other main move in this position, and also quite a decent one. Now bishop d3 played, c5. So what can we say in general about the position? We have kings on both sides of the board. That means there are some attacking chances in theory. So for example, you could imagine white pushing forward his pawns would be nice, and then open up some files, get that mating attack going, but obviously it's not that easy, and black also has his say. And this last move is quite nice, c5. Taking away the d4 square, which is an important square for white to maneuver, and also giving black this option to bring the queen to the queen side, to a5, and maybe initiate some threat on his own. So it is, or it can get quite sharp here. It just depends how the players continue. Rook hg1 brings the rook to open file, bishop e6. Makes sense, and here Carlsen plays a new move, king to b1, which is very logical, defending the pawn on a2, before and mostly bishop g5 has been seen. But also bishop g5 doesn't seem to offer white any advantage. King b1, queen a5, threatening checkmate, so white played c4. The only other move to stop that in a reasonable fashion is a3, but here black can push c4, bishop f1, now even go knight to e4, play d5, and it feels like black is making progress here. There are some sacrificing ideas on a3 or c3. It's understandable that Carlsen did not want to allow this. So he played c4, hoping to press in the endgame. The queens come off. And this is good news for black, because usually if somebody is attacking here, it's white. And now with the queens off, obviously there will not be an attack against the black king. So the position is very symmetrical, only difference is the pawn structure. White has these doubled pawns, but they're not really a drawback. I mean, the position is just equal, and white has to do something immediately if he wants to get anything. Otherwise, the rooks will just come off on the e-file and it will be a draw. So right now there's the threat of knight g5, black goes h6, and now white goes knight h4 with two ideas, knight f5 and knight g6. And white tries to get the bishop pair at least here, because then he would have a stable long-term advantage and better able to press in the game. Caruana responds in the right way, rook fe8. Now if knight f5, the bishop can just go to f8 and nothing happens here. So instead Carlsen plays knight g6. The point is here, if black takes the knight, then white takes the bishop, and now he has achieved his goal. He has not only gained the bishop pair, but also black's structure is weakened. So this would be a nice advantage for white, but obviously not something that Caruana allows. He goes knight g4, a good move, threatens the pawn on f2 as well as prepares a potential knight e5 move. Carlsen takes on e7 with check, now defends the pawn, and here we see it, knight to e5. If white was able to keep the bishop here, then he would be a bit better, but he is not able to because now black gets ready to take on d3 and the bishop cannot go to e4 because then this pawn on c4 would be hanging. So Carlsen goes bishop f4, and now black cannot take on c4. That would be a mistake because there's a pin here on the e file, so black cannot take back the bishop. Instead he just takes on d3, and now he plays rook to d7, defends the pawn. Well, the pawn can still be taken, but the main point is that he unpins the bishop and threatens the pawn on c4. And now Carlsen took the pawn d6. If he goes b3 instead, d5 happens, and we also get the symmetrical position we see in the game. So Carlsen takes on d6, takes, and now black could take on c4, but first he plays rook to d8, which is more precise. White cannot take on c5, that would be a bad mistake because of back rank checkmate on d1, a common mating motive one should know about. So Carlsen plays rook d2 instead, and now black takes, king to c1, defends the rook and threatens the pawn, so black goes b6, and you can already see it, right? The position is completely symmetrical. Nobody has any material advantage. It's opposite color bishops, which even adds to the drawing likelihood. So this is just completely equal. Now the rooks come off. Actually, Caruana could also keep the rooks on the board, but he probably just said, I'll take the rooks off and I know this is a draw. He actually loses a pawn now, but because it is opposite color bishops, it doesn't matter. The side with who's defending can quite easily set up an impenetrable fortress. So here Carlsen won the pawn on c5. Black now puts his pawns all on the light squares. We see this quite nicely here. This is definitely a setup to remember because now you have the base on f7 and you just have to defend this base. All the other pawns defend each other, and if white wants to make any progress with the pawns here, he would always need to exchange some of black's pawns. So with this setup, there's really no way for white to make any reasonable progress. Also in rook endgames, this is a very good setup if you're defending. Now g3, bishop e2, bishop f8, and king c6. The king stands on c6, not allows king c5, and black will just stay like that. If white decides to run over here with king e5, then black can also just keep defending the pawn and nothing will happen here. So this is also rock solid. Instead Carlsen tries b3 and now pushes the pawn forward. But the pawn is not going anywhere as long as the king is on c6. And this is the point. With opposite color bishops, you just cannot compete on the color that you don't have, on the opposite color to your bishop. In that case for white, the light squares. So the king cannot be pushed away from c6. Bishop g4, and now Carlsen brings the king in to the king side. He has one idea we see in a moment. Here he plays g4, takes, and we see his idea. He prepares it now. He has one idea, but Caruana of course had seen it from far away, which is to push f5, and this now black has to be careful, because if he takes, then white gets another pass pawn and he wins. With two pass pawns that would be too much. White would win the bishop against this pawn on the h-file and then win. Okay, so black cannot allow white to give another passer, and white is threatening to take. So black reacts with bishop b1, and now there's no progress to be made. If white takes, black takes back with the g-pawn, f-pawn, excuse me, and has the g-pawn and nothing to be done. No passer to be created. And the same is true for king takes f7, bishop takes f5. Once again we have g against h and absolutely nothing white can do. So Carlsen played bishop f2, and now bishop c2 was played and the draw was agreed. And important here is that black doesn't take on f5, because then h5 happens, and once again white gets that passed pawn, because if black takes, there's king takes f5. So Black can just wait though, and that's what he did, and then there's really nothing for white to do. Nothing changes, and a good defensive setup here by Caruana, and an effortless draw for the challenger. Probably his most effortless one in the match. Once again, great preparation, or you could also say not so great preparation from Carlsen, who went for this line, hoping he would get a little bit of something in the end game, but really he got nothing, and then Caruana just reached a very easy draw now, and will be able to push, or try to push, in the last game of the match with the white pieces. So the final game is on Monday. Whoever wins this game is world champion, so the tension, the pressure is immensely high. And if it's a draw once again, then it will go to the tie breaks on Wednesday. So tomorrow is the rest day on Sunday, and then let's hope for an exciting last game on Monday. I see you then. Bye bye.